up, everybody? This your boy DJ Mixmaster, and welcome back to Genshin Impact. So, this is a video long time in the making. Wanted to go ahead and get this out before we get our newest character, before we'll get the newest region being Natland in, what, about a month or two? Something like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and showcase my account as it is right now with all my characters and everything. But I figure also give a background as to everything with me in Genshin. So let me start off with that. So I started Genshin back in 2021. Of course, everyone knows Genshin came out the COVID year and grew in popularity, probably because, you know, everyone was forced to be inside and whatnot. But it still continued to grow and everything even after, showing how great of a game it was. I started out late because I figured Genshin Impact, even though I saw all the advertisements and everything, mainly for me watching YouTube videos during the COVID year, idiot me just went on with Genshin the same as I originally did with Fortnite. If you'll watch some of my earlier Fortnite videos, I think my first one explains it, that just like Fortnite, I thought it was just a fad. It would just die within a couple of months or something like that, and then you wouldn't hear from it again. And then, seeing that it was still going, I decided to give it a shot. And surprise, surprise, I ended up liking it. I know a lot of people say it's because of certain things and all that kind of stuff. For me, I like Genshin mainly because of the story. I've always been a story person. I always like the theory craft about how the story's going to go and all that kind of stuff. It just always intrigues me. I have a mind of, figuring out stuff, but also what could possibly happen and everything. So that's the reason why I, originally joined and why I continue to play even to this day. So I ended up starting Genshin. Let me say this. I actually downloaded Genshin, I believe it was in July of 2021. And I had downloaded it and had it on my console for about a week and a half before I started to actually play. So I downloaded it because I was just like, I'll download it and I'll see what it is, and if I don't like it, I can just uninstall, right? At the time, I think around that time, I was playing some other games and all that kind of stuff, and so I was more interested in that. And so my very first day of me playing was literally 2 days after the Kazuha banner was finished. So my very first banner was the Ayaka banner. And so I always saw videos, everyone was saying Kazuha's the best and all that kind of stuff and everything, after, his initial release. I think this was like probably close to a month after his initial run. And I was just like, who's this Kazuha? I have no clue who the heck it is, right? And then, of course, met him in game when I finally managed to get to the Inazuman chapter. And I was just like, what's the big deal? He's just an animal character. But I don't feel that way. I still don't feel like he's like this all-powerful, character and whatnot. But, maybe because I don't have him high enough constellation. I have him as C0, if I'm not mistaken. But I do see the appeal and everything, and I think he's alright. But, like I said, I came in 2 days after that. And, well, we've had a journey. I'll say that. So, I approach Genshin the same, well, at least with all of his mechanics with weapons and the artifacts, all that kind of stuff, like how I would go with any kind of game, or I mean, with any kind of game, right? For me, and I believe I've mentioned this, that I always approach this when it comes to characters like this, where you're fighting and then you can equip them with different stuff. I'm a jack of all trades type of player, where they may not be the best at what they are, but they're good enough. And I always say, everyone can be a DPS, and so that's the way I have built most of my characters. The only one really that I haven't built like that mainly is my Barbara, who is built as just a pure healer. Is like everyone else can do a little, damage and everything like that. But I've always felt like that. Along with, I am a collector / trophy hunter because, I play on PlayStation. I've always liked, collected trophies because that means I'm, completing the game and whatnot. I've always been someone that doesn't just play the game just to finish it, just to move on to another game. I like to be able to 100% a game. And so with that, as of this moment, we have every character. And we have almost every single weapon. The only weapon I do not have or own are the 2 weapon series that are in the shop, which is, I think, the Royal series and Blackcliff. I don't own any weapons from either of those series. I don't have Risley's signature weapon. I missed out. And I don't have, I believe it is 2 of the special event weapons because, of course, obviously I came in late. So I'm missing Festering Desire, and I think it's Windbloom Olm or something like that. I think those are the only 2 that I'm missing. Of course, the sword and the bow. I have all the others. And it kind of irks me a little bit because, like I said, I am a collector. I know some people say some of the weapons and whatnot, especially some of the 5 stars, are irrelevant and are useless, but I rather have a copy of everything to at least say I have it, and then in case there could be a character that could use it, I rather have it than try to want it and hope. Alright, so I decided to only select a traveler so that we can just go in order. I think they have it ordered by element and then by level, and so that's how we'll do it. So, of course, we have the traveler. I'm not going to show all the stats and everything for the traveler. I'm just going to give a brief overview of my traveler. I have, as many of you may know if you watched a lot of the latest Spiral Abyss videos that I've made the last few, that I've been trying to build all of my characters and then to rebuild my travelers to be able to do the Spiral Roulette. And so this latest Spiral Roulette I ended up releasing about a week ago or something like that. I was able to use every single character that I own in the challenge, and we ended up actually playing as the Traveler for one of the floors, and I believe it was the Dendro Traveler. So, for the brief overview, I have all of them built. So for my Animal Traveler, we are using the Viridis Avernus set, and the weapon, I believe I have Iron Sting. The Iron Sting was my very first craftable I ever crafted, and so it's just something I put on. My Geo Traveler, I believe I have a mix of the Archaic Petra and Gladiator set, or maybe it's Chimeneras, but basically 2-piece Geo bonus damage, 2-piece attack, and I have the Jade Cutter for for my weapon for Geo Traveler. For Electro Traveler, I have, of course, the emblem set with the Favonius sword as her weapon. My Dendro Traveler, I have the 4-piece Deepwood set with the Sapwood Blade, I believe that's the name of the weapon, for her weapon. And then for the Hydro Traveler, I'm trying to think, I believe I have the 4-piece Nip set. I could be totally wrong, but I believe it's either 4-piece Nip or 4-piece Heart of Depth with the Black Sword as the weapon. And then I have all the talents for each of the travelers at least at level 4, that being the normal attack, the skill, and the burst at least at level 4 for all of them. And so now the traveler's done, we'll go ahead and move on to Zhongli. So, as you see, I have him at 90. I have the Staff of Homa, one of them that I managed to get, luckily, at level 80. We are using the 4-piece Tenacity set. Here's the flower, the plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. I had to rebuild him a whole lot, because idiot me didn't really look at the skills and everything, and I didn't realize that he scaled off of HP, so I had a bunch of pieces on him that had a bunch of defense on them, because of course, you know, Geo, usually most of them scale on defense. And of course, here's the stats on him. I want to raise more crit rate on him, so I'll be working on the pieces and whatnot to hopefully get that up. That's the main reason why I have a crit rate circlet on him. Then of course my Shan Yun with 3,300 attack. Another one where I want to raise her crit rate. Of course, the 3 pieces I have on her are all attack, but I really do want to increase my crit rate to get it at least to 50, and then to raise my energy recharge just a little bit. I do have her signature weapon, and of course it does help out a whole lot, but still I would prefer if I had a little bit more energy recharge. We have her signature here. Then of course her artifacts, I have this flower, this plume, this sands, the goblet, and the circlet. Then of course we have our Shinha, another character that's built the same way as my Shanyan. Have the 3 pieces all as attack. I do want more crit rate, and the energy recharge is okay. I do want it to be a little higher, but I feel like 140 is fine for how I usually use her. I just wish I had more crit rate. We're using, of course, her signature, the Calamity Queller, and then her artifacts. I'm using the 4-piece Noblesse. I originally did have Blizzard Strayer, and that's the reason why her crit rate is lower than it is. Not to say that my crit rate with the Blizzard Strayer set I had was any better. It wasn't really that bad. I had it, I think, at around 45%. So of course with Blizzard Share, that essentially meant I had about close to 70. But I swapped to Noblesse on her because I usually used her with my Dia team, which was Dia, her, Shinha, Noel, not Noel, Sucrose, and Kokomi. And so I just wanted to get that extra cryo damage to help, or to pair with Dia when I used her burst. But I decided to switch because I figured using that team along with using her in my plunge team that I sometimes do, the increased attack could possibly help out a whole lot. And so these are the pieces that I have for her. Flower, the plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. And then next we have my Ganyu, in which we have these stats. And we're using a Blizzard Strayer, so of course the crit rate is about what, close to 70. So the only thing I wish is I had better energy recharge, but what can you do? I'm using the Thundering Pulse. And then for her artifacts, we have this flower, this plume, the sands, the goblet, and this circlet. This is the only kind of I know I have some pieces that have some defense on them and whatnot, but overall, this is the one piece that I kind of really hate. I had originally a crit rate circlet that had a bunch of crit damage on it, but because I was using Blizzard Strayer, I had ended up overcapping my crit rate. Ended up overcapping by, I think it was like 15%, because it was before Blizzard Strayer's effect. I had, I think, near 75% crit rate. And then of course my Claran, one of the newest characters, 60 over 199. Wish I had a little bit more crit damage, but for the fact that I was just using mostly the spare pieces that I ended up getting when we were farming for Arlecchino, I didn't have to really do that much farming for Claran. In fact, all I needed was just a crit damage circlet, either a crit damage circlet or an attack sands. That was the only things that I was missing for her particular set that I have. Then of course we have her signature, and then for the artifacts we have this flower, this plume, this sands, which is the sands that I ended up farming for and getting. Then of course this electro goblet and this crit damage circlet are all pieces that I had when I was farming for Arlecchino. So I was able to I ended up, when I did that summons video, we ended up building her right then and there. I ended up having almost all of these pieces, and I haven't changed any of the pieces from when we had built her. The same can be said about one of my other characters, and we'll get to her when we get to her. So now we have my Raiden Shogun. These are the stats. I had a better Shogun in terms of crit rate, crit damage, but my energy recharge wasn't as high as it as it is now. I had about 15% more crit rate and crit damage, but I had way less energy recharge. My original Shogun had a crit rate of near 70 and crit damage of about 100 and I think it was like 135, but my energy recharge just barely passed 200. It was like 202 or something like that. So we ended up getting, during one of her reruns, ended up getting 2 engulfing lightnings. So that was good. Ended up getting the huge increase in attack. And then we have this, which is the piece that I originally changed, because originally I had an electro damage bonus goblet for her. And then the crit rate. My Kekching, which has probably had the most changes to her. Mainly in terms of builds, and that's basically mainly because she is my very first 5-star that I ever got. So I had her built originally as a physical DPS. That's just basically because I had first gotten her, and we ended up crafting the after I crafted the Iron Sting, I ended up crafting a what's that physical damage sword? I can't remember the name of it, but I still have it. And so she's gone through the most changes with crit rate, crit damage, and her energy recharge. At one point, I had her energy recharge at almost 200% before I even realized that she ended up getting a bonus to her energy recharge thanks to one of her skills. Passives, I should say. Passives. And so had the most changes to her. So I ended up originally having a Jade Cutter on her because I had a lot of my pieces have HP percent, so I was just like, hey, you know, it's kind of bad, you know, want to build her with attack, but hey, the extra HP isn't that bad because it converts it to attack. But I ended up getting another Mist Splitter reforged, and so I decided to put that on her because of course she also gets bonus to her crit rate after using her burst, so I figured, you know, swap that. I've always had the Thundering Fury on her, but I've always changed pieces because of course, you know, going from physical to electro damage, and then, you know, wanting to have more energy recharge, less energy recharge, more attack, less attack, more elemental mastery, less elemental mastery. So like I said, she's the one that I've had the most changes with, and I'm still working on trying to get better pieces for her. Like, for example, this is the circlet, I mean the sands that I have on her now. I originally had a better one, but along with those changes that I talked about, I had ended up switching her from a Thundering. I ended up saying I always had her on Thundering Fury. I should take that back. I didn't always have her on Thundering Fury. I had her on Thundering Fury for a long time, and then when Sumeru first came out, and with Dendro being the new element and being the new thing, and then Aggravate, Spread, Bloom, Hyper Bloom being the, you know, the best reactions and whatnot, I swapped her to a Thunder Soother, and then it was, I can't remember which version it was, but it was the one right before we ended up getting the Scaramouche, you know, weekly boss battle, that I swapped her back to Thundering Fury because I was just like, you know, I could have the Thundering Soother, could have a whole bunch of Elemental Mastery on her and whatnot, but I use her for so many other teams, you know, at least back then, other than just for Aggravate and all that kind of stuff. So I had swapped it. So I also did and that's the reason why I have bad pieces. I also did what is considered the cardinal sin, when I ended up getting new pieces instead of just regularly leveling them up and just waiting. I ended up using the old pieces I have on a character to get the initial boost for the level. So I had to end up, farming another Thundering Fury set for her. But she still does pretty well for me. Next we have Farina. Have these stats. I feel like they're alright. I'm actually quite surprised I ended up getting that much, and now that I look at it, because I haven't really looked at her stats, all I was really focused on was just her HP. I'm actually quite surprised I have that much crit damage on her. But we have her signature, and then of course we ended up having it at R2, thanks to me trying to go for, I forget what the other weapon was for the second character that was on her banner. But hey, it agrees, so that works. And then of course we're using the golden troop for her. A lot of these pieces I originally had on my official, because I decided to swap her off from what she originally had, which was I had my official originally at 2-piece Bloodstain, 2-piece Thundering Fury. So then of course when Fontaine comes out, I ended up getting these pieces for my official. Well, not these HP pieces, but the other 3 I did. And when Farina came out, I just basically swapped them and just decided to get some more for my official. So this is what I currently have. I want to end up increasing the energy recharge just a bit. But, I'll make do with what I have. Then we have my Mona, in which she's gone through changes. Originally, I had her as, what was it? A Heart of Depth set. The 4-piece Heart of Depth. Only because, Hydro bonus damage, I figured, why the heck not? And then I ended up watching someone's video talking about how she could be a tremendous nuker and just constant nuker if you give her and build her with the emblem set. So that's what I ended up switching to. So I don't know if she's better or worse, but in terms of the stats, as you see, she is better overall than what I had before, because my Heart of Depth set that I had before, I only had, I think it was 40 crit rate, 95 crit damage, and only 125 energy recharge. So when I ended up farming to try and get pieces for her, ended up getting lucky. So of course we have the Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds as her weapon. We originally had, or I originally had, what did I originally have on it? It wasn't this. It was, I believe it was Solar Pearl I may have had on her, but that's just because I just wanted a weapon that had crit rate. Because at the time, like I said, I had only 40 something crit rate, 95 crit damage, but most of that crit rate ended up coming from Solar Pearl, so I only had about 15, 20 crit rate. So I wanted to raise the crit rate up, so that's the reason why I ended up having her with that. But I ended up getting a second Lost Prayer, thanks to a loss from the standard banner, so I was like, hey, I can use it on her. And so this is what I have for her. We have this flower, this plume, the sands, this goblet, and this circlet. Now, I would like to increase some stuff with her. Mainly, I want to increase the crit damage. But, I feel like if I were to do that, I'd probably sacrifice some crit rate. So, I just keep her the way I have her for now. And then my pride and joy, Dia. So, we have her at 8137. I know I'm lacking in crit damage. I am currently working on that. I had a set on her originally that had a little less crit rate, but more crit damage and more energy recharge. But, of course, the set I originally had on her, which I have on her now, people thought is ineffective. And then, of course, you have, what is that, for cautious. I originally got that set for her, but I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go back. So I ended up farming up again to get pieces for her. And this is what we ended up with. We have her signature at R2, which, of course, if you saw my video with that new banner, what was that called? I forget what it was called. Ended up getting very lucky. So we ended up getting both the Hunter's Path and the Beacon of the Reed Sea from it. Didn't have to waste fate points, so hey. And then I have the Vermilion Heart Hereafter for her. And I know a lot of people probably say, you know, everyone thought this set could be good on her, but a lot of people think it doesn't work. And it's like, I made sure when Dia came out to test this set, and it was like, it does work. The problem for a lot of people is you just they instantly think that you'll get the boost immediately and all that kind of stuff. It's like you have to wait first for her to start taking damage, then burst. And so that's what I figured out, but it's like it does work. And also, I don't just use her for her burst or, you know, just use her for her skill. I do use her on field a whole lot. And so the extra attack is like, yeah, her burst is only for 4 seconds, but for the rest of that time, you still have that increase in attack. And then I do use her normal attacks. And I ended up having her. She is my only character so far that is triple crowned. And I'm very proud of that because, like I said, I do love her. I love the character. I love everything about her. I know everyone says, it's like, what's the point of having a tank in the game when you can just out-heal everything or whatever. It's like, but I think that's actually pretty cool. I know a lot of people were mad because they thought when she was first coming out, I mean, not coming out, but, you know, hopefully when she was going to be coming out and say, oh, she's going to be this excellent, you know, DPS, you know, just go in. I'm like, for me, at least for me, the whole time when I was doing the story and everything, it wasn't screaming DPS to me. She was screaming tank to me. And so I'm kind of glad when her kit got revealed that I was absolutely right that she was a tank. So, like I said, I'm using the Hereafter. We have this flower, this plume, this sands, this goblet, and this circlet. The circlet is the only thing I'm mad about and that I want to get better. If I could trade the crit rate for attack or even, you know, HP percent, I would have preferred that. Because like I said, my original set that I had on her was the Hereafter, but I think it was about 69 point something crit rate, 156 crit damage, and 146 146 energy recharge. And so I've been trying to get back to that. I would prefer to, have higher crit damage and whatnot, but that's one I would preferably want to get back to, is the nearly 70% crit rate, nearly 150 crit damage, 160 crit damage, and near 150 energy recharge. So, like I said, I'm still currently, trying to get there. Every day when I log in, I, create 5 condensed resins, and 2 of those condensed resins are always spent at that domain. I know I could just use the strong box, but I want to wait to use the strong box until I have I'm nearly full, inventory with my artifacts. I rather just farm the domain and then, stockpile any pieces that I don't want or don't have any use, and then at a later time just go in all at once with the strong box instead of just a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And then my Yoimiya. This is the other character I was talking about when I was talking about Clarand. My Yoimiya, I have not changed her weapon nor her artifact since I built her, and I started to build her when I first got her, when her first rerun, which is of course her banner, if I'm not mistaken, after Ayaka's banner, first banner. And so these stats have not changed since she was originally added in. And all of her pieces are, of course, not all of them, but, I used the Shimonera set with her. And all of those pieces are just not throwaway pieces, but essentially kind of, throwaway pieces that I ended up getting while I was trying to farm for my Electro Traveler at first, way back when. Just the Shimonera's pieces I was just getting while trying to get emblem pieces. So this is her stats. I always felt like with the way I had her built and the team I had her on, I could just hit like a truck. And the funny thing is, I never had anyone to boost her attack and all that kind of stuff. The team I generally always had her on was almost the same team as I always had played when I first was in Inazuma. My team when I was in Inazuma was Keqing, Yangfei, Electro Traveler, of course, when, swapped to Electro, and then Noelle. So I ended up swapping my Keqing for I ended up swapping my Keqing for Yoimiya, and I was swapping my Yanfei to who did I have? It wasn't Lisa, it was I think for the time being it was Fischl. It just felt kind of awkward because I had 2 bow characters. I try to not have in my teams, I try to not have the same class of character, just because, different attack speeds, different attacks, all that kind of stuff. But I always felt like my Yoimiya could just hit like a damn truck, and I love that about her. And I never used, like I said, I never used any boosting, so I never used, Bennett. But then, of course, back then, my Bennett was at level 1. I didn't start raising my Bennett until roughly about a year and a half ago. So, for about little over a year, my Bennett was level 1. As a matter of fact, a lot of my characters back then, for about a year and a half, were at level 1. A lot of these characters that everyone, swears by. My Sincho was level 1. My Bennett was level 1. My Xiangling was level 1. My Sucrose was level 1. I just didn't use them because I didn't see what was so great about these characters like everyone else did. Of course, I'm also someone that I like to play with all the characters and everything just to keep it fresh and whatnot. That's the reason why I like doing the Spiral Roulette it, causes me to play with characters I probably wouldn't use normally in the Spiral Abyss, but I like that challenge just to see if I can make it work. But this is my Yoimiya. This is her weapon at R4. This is the only 5-star weapon I believe I have that is R3 or higher. And the only reason that is because I got extremely lucky. So I believe I may have told this in one of my earlier summon videos, like at least a year ago or something like that. But I've had in total, the life of me playing Genshin, about 4 times where I ended up getting 2 5-star characters in a row. Or I should say 2 5-stars in a row. 3 of those were characters and the other one was weapon. So this Thundering Pulse is the weapon. I ended up pulling a double Yoimiya on Yoimiya's first run banner. I ended up getting a double Yoimiya, and then I ended up wanting to get a Thundering Pulse for her. It ended up getting a double Thundering Pulse in 110 pull. And then the R3 was when Raiden Shogun first came out. Of course, I believe it was Thundering Pulse and the Engulfing Lightning. Ended up getting Thundering Pulse. And then one of Raiden Shogun's reruns where I think she reran Yoimiya, I tried to go for Engulfing again, ended up getting another Thundering Pulse, so that's why it's at R4. So if Yoimiya does come around again, which I'm pretty sure might happen, I will try to get it at R5. It'll be the only weapon I have that's R5, 5-star. And then these are my pieces. These are all the pieces that I ended up just using that I had on hand when I first got my Yoimiya, and these pieces have not changed since I built her. Of course, most likely I could probably do better, but I really don't want to. For me, changing Yoimiya's pieces, it's more superstitious to me than anything, just because all of these pieces, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, other than this attack sands, I ended up getting, when I rolled them, I ended up getting 1 stat roll in each of them. And I believe all of these pieces, I think actually other than this Pyro Damage Goblet, all the rest of the pieces were 3 statters. They weren't 4. This Pyro Damage Goblet was the only one that was a 4 stat. And then, of course, if you can probably look at my pieces and guess, most of these, which have defense, well, other than, this one and this one. But of course, this one rolled flat HP, and the other 2, the 4th stat ended up being a defense stat. So, not that great, but still, I didn't want to change anything because it's just like, she seems perfect, 65, 156, it's just perfect. I mean, would I like a little bit more crit damage? Sure. I mean, would I change that piece that had, not piece, but stat that ended up giving me, 11% energy recharge for something else? Sure, because, I don't really need it. But hey, I'll get to it when everyone else is settled. There are some characters, Yoimiya's one, and maybe a couple of other characters I have where it's just like, I'm fine with where they are right now. I don't want to change anything about them. I have the perfect, crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, elemental mastery, stuff like that. Alright, so moving on, we have Noelle. Character who I know a lot of people say, why would you use her for a shield and whatnot, but I actually like her shield and everything. I like her shield, and I like the fact that, you know, having that, she could also heal. She was my healer for the longest time. I ended up getting Noelle, of course, as almost everyone, because she's a part of that special wish banner that you get when you first start. But I built her even though I had my Barbara, just simply because I just feel like attacking to get health back was a whole lot better, at least to me, versus using just the pure healer like Barbara. But we have, of course, my Noelle with 50, 159, and 129 energy recharge. I had a different build on her. Right now, I have the Husk set on her. Originally, I had a two-piece Petra, two-piece... No. Yeah, I did. I had a two-piece Petra, two-piece Gladiators on her. And then before that, I had a four-piece Gladiator set on her. I don't remember if Gladiator works on Claymore, but it's just... at the beginning, I just... at the beginning, I didn't realize what artifacts really did. I just knew they gave you a boost in your stats. And I never really did look at the two-piece and four-piece effects all that well. I just ended up equipping artifacts that I had, and then of course the Gladiator set, you end up getting those, you know, passively through a lot of things in the game. So for the longest time, I went through about, I want to say about half of Mondstadt, if you will. So it was just after going to each of the 4 domains in Mondstadt that I realized about artifacts and equipping them. So for the whole time, I was getting these artifacts but not equipping them. The only thing I was doing, and also on top of that, I wasn't even raising my talent levels. All I was doing was just leveling up my characters and then giving them weapons and leveling up the weapons. I didn't know anything about talent levels, and I didn't know anything about the artifacts. So, of course, a lot of my characters when I first started were extremely weak when they didn't have to be. But surprisingly, it wasn't like it was hard for me. I just assumed that, you know, being the higher levels and having high level weapons was carrying me. But once it started to kind of slow down for me, I started to realize everything. I was like, oh, okay. So this is my Noelle. Like I said, originally I had, you know, two-piece, and then before that I had a 4-piece. She was my healer for the longest time. Well, my healer and shielder for the longest time. And still kind of one of my favorites, truth be told. So we have the Red Horn. Originally, I had not Iron Sting, but the other one, the Claymore version. I had that for her, and that's what I had for the longest time. And then I gave her what is it? I need to look this up. Oh, there we go. The Unforged. So originally I actually had this prototype archaic on her originally. And then I had swapped to the white blind. And then I ended up switching to the unforged. And I had the unforged on her for a while before I ended up getting a second stone thresher. And then instead of giving it to my Ito to raise up his own refinement, I decided to give it to Noelle. Basically, I did that at the time because, like I said, I had two-piece, and I had so much crit rate on her back then. But then, like I said, I swapped to the Husk set, and that kind of changed. But we have this, and then a Plume, the Sands, the Geo damage bonus, and then this crit rate circlet. Which these two pieces are the two that ended up causing my crit rate to go down. Because originally I had her at nearly 75% crit rate. So with the crit damage I was getting from Stone Thresher, it was just perfect. But I decided to swap her, obviously, because, you know, Husk is the general Geo set most like to use. Then we have our Sucrose, the first of the, you know, basic 4 stars, you know, that everyone should build and whatnot. She was the first one that I built. I built her mainly for my Dia, and that's the reason why I built her. So we have these stats. Originally, I had a more damage-focused Sucrose, but that was before I realized what good Elemental Mastery would do for her, or Elemental Mastery would do in general. So I had way less Elemental Mastery before. I had, I think, just a bit over 200 Elemental Mastery before, with a crit rate damage and crit damage ratio of, I think it was like 56, 114, and the energy recharge of like 104. But she was more damage focused, and then I realized what Elemental Mastery could do. And it's just like, oh, okay. And so, ended up building a little bit more Elemental Mastery. I had originally only about, I think, just a bit under 700, but then I swapped weapons. So I ended up swapping to this Wandering Even Star. I originally had Sacrificial. Was it Sacrificial or I believe it was Sacrificial. Yeah, I originally had Sacrificial Honor. And this is one that I just raised. It's like I had a Sacrificial that was, I think it was like R1 or 2. But I ended up swapping to this basically for the bonus attack that can be added to or be given to other characters. And then of course I have the Viridescent set on her. So we have this and this. Elemental Mastery, which this is my worst one. I think my worst piece that I have on her. And like I said, I had a more damage focused Sucrose. Originally I had this was the only piece I had that had EM on it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was HP, and then this one was Animo damage. And I had similar rolls, not similar rolls, but a similar looking piece to this Elemental Mastery piece with these two. But it took a while, but I finally was able to get some Elemental Mastery pieces. Of course, like I said, I really want to change this one out. I have a really good Elemental Mastery circlet that's way better than this one. At least I think it's better. Where is it? I believe it's level 20, or is it 16? I believe it's better, and I think I still have it. It might be... I could have sworn I thought I still had it. Oh yeah, there it is. So yeah, I think it's better, right? A little bit. But I need to find a, if I wanted to equip it, I need to find a, a Viridescent Goblet Elemental Mastery. And of course, Elemental Mastery is one of the hardest to get on pieces, so I'm still working on it. And then we have our Chanyun, which for a while was my second carry. My first being Kaching. The stats I had on my old Chanyun were roughly about this, but I think I had less crit rate, more crit damage. The energy recharge was about the same. I think I had about 130. We have the Sea Lord on him. Originally, I had the prototype Archaic on him for the longest time. And then for the artifacts, he's one of those where I gotta work on some of these pieces, but he's one of these where I was just farming for different sets. Not because I was going to put them on characters, but just simply because, that's how I normally get around and use my resin every day. So for the longest time, about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, for I would say about 6-8 months, every day what I would do is, like I said, I would always condense my resin, get the 5, and then I would just go by each artifact domain and just spend the condensed resin to get pieces, and I would just circle around and just keep going and just keep going and just keep going, because I figured, other characters might use these particular artifacts, in artifact sets. Why not? And then I always had in my head, there was no real evidence to it, but I always figured that they probably would expand the strongbox one day. And sure enough, they did. So I was just like, hey, all of that artifact farming that I did, having all these spare artifacts, paid off, right? So this is my piece. Oh yeah, that's the reason why. Because originally I had on him a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. I decided to swap it to a 2-piece Noblesse, 2-piece Blizzard Strayer. So that's the reason why this piece is not leveled up yet. But we have that. We have that. We have that. And we have this. So originally I had I originally had the 4-piece Blizzard Strayer on him. I decided to swap a long time ago because it was just like, you'll constantly have cryo, and you'll constantly have the you can have the 4-piece probably constantly in use, but even now I don't use Chanyun on field like for a whole lot. I'll use him for some DPSing a little bit, but I'm basically just using Chanyun to use his field, swap off to another character so that they could use the cryo infusion and then use his burst just to get that, you know, burst damage before placing his field down again and then swapping off. That's how I always have used my Chanyun. And then we have Kuki. I extremely love, mainly because I've said it once and I'll say it again. I know most people would say that Overload is not the best reaction, but for me, I've always loved Overload. I've always felt like it's one of the best, if not the best. Mainly, you know, people say it's decent and really good. I mean, no, not really good, but, you know, decent. It's just at the knockback, and it's like, well, you know, my team that I had was, you know, Keqing, Yanfei, so it's just like I have a Catalyst that could, you know, do decent attacks from a decent distance away, and then Keqing has the teleport, so the knockback really wasn't an issue for me. The only thing was I had wished that the Electro Traveler was sort of kind of like a healer, so that I could swap my healer slash shielder Noelle to something a little more supporty, something to raise attack or something like that. And so when I heard about Kuki, I was just like, oh my god, yes, my prayers have been answered. An Electro healer. And she did not disappoint. So originally with my Kuki, when she first came out, a lot of people had her on Tenacity. I had her on Maiden's Beloved. And at that time when Kuki first came out, my Kuki healed just as much as my Kokomi did. And that's not even the emergency healing. That's just the regular healing when she's higher than 50%. My Kokomi healed back then for roughly, what was it? I think it was like 4,040 each tick. And my Kuki healed for just a bit under 4,000. It was like 3,900 something. And that was her healing, you know, like I said, non-emergency healing. So, of course, our healing, emergency healing surpassed my Kokomi's. And so I was just, and then on top of that, I had decent damage with her too, because my Maiden's Beloved set, I ended up having all of my pieces have HP percent and attack percent. And so my Kuki had, I think, close to 40,000 HP, around 1,500 attack. And then her pieces I had on her were HP percent, electro damage, and healing bonus. I kind of missed that set and having that on her, but I do like what I have on her now. I wish I had a little bit more crit damage, but you know, it's kind of fine for right now. Because like I said, I always like to build my characters kind of like a jack of all trades. Have my Kuki be able to heal a decent amount, but also be able to do damage, you know, just in case if she needs to be on the field for just a little bit longer than expected, to be able to at least be able to take care of herself. So we have this Jade Cutter for her. This was the original weapon I had on my Keqing. I have two of these. I have one at R3 and the other at R2. The Jade Cutter and the Primordial Wing Spear are two of the weapons that I ended up getting, you know, copies of and whatnot. Of course, Jade Cutter when it comes, you know, in the weapon banner, and the spear when a lot of the times that's the weapon I end up getting when I lose by 50-50 in the weapon banner or the standard banner. And then we have the 4-piece Gilded Dreams on her, so like I said, I had originally a Maiden's Beloved on her, and then I swapped to this when Sumeru came out. And I ended up doing some changes because originally I still kept the same main stats when I swapped over from Maidens to Gilded. This was still HP, but I had originally an Electro Goblet for the Gilded Dream set. And then I had a healing bonus, just a random healing bonus piece that I had on hand. But when I swapped for this to be HP, I had to find a new healing bonus. So I farmed and I got this one. I know it could be a whole lot better. Ended up rolling a whole bunch into defense percent, which annoys me. But hey, you know, it is what it is. And then my newly raised Kiwara. So we have all that HP. I had way better crit stats on her, but that's because I had her built slightly differently, and the weapon I had on her was different. As I said for the last character, I had 2 Jade Cutters, and the other Jade Cutter, the one that was R2, I had originally ended up having on Kiwara. So the crit rate was a little bit higher, and I had a little bit higher crit damage. I think I had about 130 crit damage. But I decided to switch to the Dock Hands Assistant so that I could have a better shield for her. It also helped for me being able to swap to this weapon when I was trying to get pieces for my I'll hate them to try to get him slightly better. Ended up having some pieces that I can give to Kurara, so I ended up swapping them out. So this is the flower, bloom, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. Originally, I had on my Kurara HP, Dendro bonus, and crit rate. So of course, like I said, that also helped out with everything. So like I said, I had better crit stats on her, but I decided to go the other way to be able to give her a better shield. Not to say that her shield was bad before, but I figured having HP pieces to be able to have the better shield, along with, you know, having this Dock Hands, which helps out with elemental mastery and everything like that. That's also the one thing I had on her a whole bunch. As you see, I only have 44 elemental mastery. With the old set, I had better crit stats, but also had better elemental mastery. I had about 150. So in changing out her pieces, that cut into that. But I feel like this is a better Kurara for me than ever before. And so now we have our Barbara. Again, just like my Yoimiya, all the pieces I have on her, I have not changed. Actually, let me rephrase that. Yes, I have. Originally, I had the Maiden's Beloved on her, and I didn't think about changing it until a... oh, never mind. Oh, that wasn't her. That was my Chi-Chi that I changed. Right, yeah. So, the only piece I changed, as you can see, was the Deep Wood piece that I changed, which just... was a better healing bonus goblet. I mean, circlet. The original one I had was just the healing bonus with 2 attack rolls and 2 defense rolls. So Other than that, all of these pieces are all the Maiden's Beloved. For Barbara, all of these pieces are the Maiden Beloved pieces I ended up getting from that book when you would complete different stuff. And the rewards you got were Maiden's Beloved pieces. These are all the pieces I got from as rewards, and I did not change anything. Now, obviously, I want to get better pieces. It's just that I use Barbara sparingly. I used to use her a whole lot because, of course, when I was first doing the Spiral Abyss, I usually would die a whole lot. So, of course, having Barbara with the ability to be able to save someone from death was real clutch for me. Because my healers weren't really built, pretty good. And on top of that, I really only had 2 healers kind of built, which was, of course, my Barbara and my Noelle. I know I had Diona, I had Jean, but my Jean wasn't fully built, and my Diona wasn't fully built. So I just had to depend on, like I said, just those 2, Noelle and Barbara, for healing when I was in the Spiral Abyss. And we have my Yanfei, which has gone through some changes, and I'm still trying to figure out what is the best for her, but I like her. She is by far one of my favorites. For the longest time, she was my favorite Pyro character before Dia came out. I always had Yanfei on my team. The charged attack combo I always did for her and everything, I just loved it. I ended up getting better with stats, so this is a better Yanfei I think I had than before. And that's just because of the pieces. I got lucky with some rolls. But we ended up having Cognitive Verity on her. We originally had the Sacred Winds that is on my Mona. I originally had on Yanfei. But because she gets some crit rate, but more importantly, because I had such high crit rate pieces on her, and I think my my Circlet was a crit rate, I decided to swap to Verity. One thing I always do, or try to do, is if we have a weapon that has crit rate or crit damage, I always try to make the Circlet the opposite, unless it's a character that has something built in, like for example Kaching and my Claran. They both have crit damage Circlets, but that's because they have built-in crit rate built into their kits. But most of the time I try to go opposite, so I could try to keep that 1 to 2 ratio. So we ended up swapping the Cognitive Verity. A lot of these Crimson Witch pieces are the same Crimson Witches pieces that I ended up farming for when I first got Yanfei all those years ago. The only change is this. I originally had an attack Sands on it, and I'm still trying to figure out what's better to have, either Elemental Mastery or attack for her. So I do plan on trying to find an attack Sands for her and swap out and whatnot. But other than that, all the rest of these pieces are pieces that I farmed way long time ago. And we have our Chiori. Again, just like what was it? My Ganyu. I'm just barely looking at these now. Didn't realize I had so much crit damage. I know the weapon kind of helps out with that, but still, I didn't think I'd have that much. Of course, we have her signature. And then we're using the husk for her as well. So we have the flower, the plume, a defense sands, a defense goblet, and a crit rate circlet. Navia, which I say the savior of Geo, but just an excellent character that I love. The shotgun style, I just love it. So we have her stats here. I wish I could have higher crit damage, but it is what it is. I'm still kind of working on some of her pieces and everything. Of course, we have her signature. And then we're using the Echoing Woods set. So, some of these pieces I got just from the first couple of runs. Like this flower and this feather, I think I got from the first couple of runs into that domain. And then I had an attack sands. This one's better than the one I originally had for her. And then we had this this one is another Geo damage bonus goblet that I ended up getting. I ended up getting one which just to complete the set. And then we end up using 5. And so we have this crit damage, circlet. I had I wouldn't say better crit damage circlet. It had almost the same rolls. The only difference was we had a defense, just flat defense piece, and instead of elemental mastery had flat attack. The only thing I regret is that this one was a 3-piece. The 4th one ended up being elemental mastery, and I was just like, okay, that's fine, but as long as I can get crit rate, because at the time I didn't have that much crit rate, and as you can see, I got no rolls in crit rate whatsoever. I ended up getting 2 rolls, I think 2 rolls each in recharge and defense, and so I technically could swap this out, but I don't think I have a better crit damage circlet right now. Also, I'm kind of lazy, so I just haven't actually really looked if I actually do have a crit damage circlet, at least a better one. Might, look later on, but I still feel okay with this considering the fact that I can hit 100k skill, and that 100k skill is a non-crit. So that's just insane to me that an elemental skill could just do that much damage. And then of course, if you've seen my Navia rerun video, we ended up getting her to C2? So that just gave further boost to her skill along with having some extra damage. So it's just fun being able to play with Geo. I know a lot of people don't like messing with Geo. Me, like I said, I don't really mind, and I don't think Crystallize is even that bad of a reaction compared to a lot of what other people say. But yeah, whatever, right? So then we have Kazuha. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I came into the game a couple of days after Kazuha's banner ended up being finished, and so I never got what was so good about Kazuha. I ended up watching other people's videos of like, oh, okay, I still don't think he's all that great, but I mean, not great, like he's a bad character, but it's like I just don't get all the hype. But maybe that has to do with constellations and whatnot, I don't know. But I only use Kazuha, you know, if I feel like I want to use his grouping utility. Otherwise than that, I'd rather just use Sukuro, so I'd rather just use another animal character that's just me. So we have his signature being Freedom Sworn, and then artifacts. I originally had him, I mean, I still have him on Viridescent Burner. I originally had him with Elemental Mastery, and Crit Rate. And I ended up swapping. So, you know, here's his flower, here's his plume. This was originally an Elemental Mastery. I swapped it to Energy Recharge because I figured to have the burst, to constantly have the burst up, to be, you know, to have that swirl and all that kind of stuff, the constant swirling. And then this is the Elemental Mastery I still had on that I kept. And then, like I said, I originally had Elemental Mastery, Crit Rate. And so this is the Crit Rate circlet I have on him. We have Jean here. Her stats, I want them to be a little bit better. They were a little bit better before. Because originally, before I decided to, I originally had 3 Jade Cutters. I had one that was R3, and then I had 2 others that were R1. But I decided to switch it up. So originally I had the higher Jade Cutter on her, which was I think level 70. I think my R3 was level 80. My second one was an R1 at 70, and then the other one was just at level 1. I originally had kept it after I got it, because I was like, someone might be able to use it and whatnot, who knows. And so I originally had the level 70, the second one, on Jean. So of course her crit rate was a little bit higher, and I had a little bit more crit damage. But I decided to switch it after finding out about, was it Sunfire or whatnot? I still don't get how it's used and whatnot, but I decided to take the philosophy of getting her recharge up so she could constantly have it up. I still don't, you know fully. All I know is it's with her and Bennett. And so, I want to try it one day just to see how it is. But also, along with that, I wanted to get her energy recharge up because with Farina coming out, and to be able to heal so that you can get fanfare stacks, the first character that came to mind to me was using Jean to have that burst heal. And so that's why I originally had decided to raise up her energy recharge. So of course we have the Skyward Blade. Originally I had on, like I said, originally I had the Jade Cutter on her, and then no. I didn't have originally I had the Aquila on her at first. This was before I ended up getting a third Jade Cutter. So when I got a third Jade Cutter, I swapped off and then gave her the Jade Cutter. And then, like I said, when Farina coming out, and then also looking into the Sunfire strategy, I decided to swap and give her the Skyward Blade. And then for artifacts, she was always on the Viridescent Burner, but I ended up swapping some pieces to try to get some more energy recharge. So this was originally a Werner set. I ended up swapping to this Pale Flame. It's a piece I ended up getting from the domain, and it was a four statter, all these stats, and I was just like, ooh, if I could get energy recharge and crit rate on this one, that'd be perfect. Of course, as you can see, most of it ended up going into energy recharge, which again, like I said, I don't mind because that's what I wanted. I just wish it was like half energy, or not half, but 3 rolls into energy recharge, 2 into crit rate. I think I got 4 into energy recharge and 1 into crit rate, because I think this one was originally a 2.7 crit rate piece. But, at least I did get the energy recharge. And then I swapped this piece because originally I had Animo damage on her. Because originally I had attack, Animo, damage, crit rate. And we have our Risley. With these stats, I kind of want to raise the crit damage a little bit higher because I'm using the Marche set. It's just it didn't work out that way, and I can't remember what his signature is, if it's crit rate or crit damage, but I couldn't get the weapon. It's the only signature for a character that I do not have. I couldn't get it, so we ended up crafting this flowing purity and giving it to him. And then, like I said, I have the Marche, and which is hilarious is I gave him crit rate just simply because even though I know this set gives crit rate, it gives 36. It's like because I had such low crit rate, before getting this piece, I decided to go crit rate to the crit damage. I will be working on him to try to get some better pieces. But, yeah, we will definitely be working to try to, get better pieces. And if I can get crit rate on the newer pieces, this will be swapped to a crit damage, but for now this is what I have him on, and that's the pieces I have him with. We have our Eula here, in which for the longest time before I would say probably before Shogun. Or maybe not Shogun, but I can't remember who. For the longest time, I think my Yanfei was the one that had the highest amount of damage. And then my Ganyu, I think. And then my Eula. And then I started to build, I think it was. It was my Eula for the longest time, and then I started to build up my Raiden Shogun, and then she ended up getting the most damage, I think. And then I think I ended up rebuilding my Eula, and I can't remember who has the highest now. I wish in the little thing, the record thing, it tells you what character you did get that damage on. I think my highest damage, is with my Eula now. This isn't the Eula that I think I used to get that one with. Mainly because I wanted to try to get higher crit damage. So of course we're using her signature, the Sword of Broken Pines, and we're using the Pale Flame set. I originally had a crit damage circlet here. I wanted a crit rate because I didn't have that much crit rate on her. And so, as you can see, it's 45, 125. I think my original stats I had was 40%, and then like 170, 180, somewhere around there. I had a bunch of crit damage, but not that much crit rate. So I always wanted a crit rate circlet. I ended up getting the other pieces for it. It was just I couldn't find the crit rate. I always ended up getting crit damage circlet, so I just ran with it. So of course here we have the flower, the plume, the sands, which I had a different sands on her, but because I ended up getting this Archaea Petra physical damage bonus goblet, and I really wanted to use it because it rolled pretty well, as you can see. I ended up just farming to try to get a attack sands. So obviously I want to change this piece, and obviously want to change this piece, and we're slowly working on it. I still haven't gotten any pieces yet. I keep missing. I've gotten a bunch of Pale Flame, sands and circlets, but the circlets I keep getting either crit damage or healing bonus, and for the sands, it's the most annoying thing, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably have dealt with this. If I do get an attack sands, it ends up being a really crappy one, but when I have gotten a sands that have good substats, it's always not the main stat I need. It's always either HP or defense or something like that. I even said, hell, if I had good substats but ended up getting an energy recharge sands, I would use that, but haven't gotten it yet. So we're working on Eula. I want to make her strong again like how I had her at the very beginning, but it's all up to RNG. So now we have our Chi-Chi. For the longest time, I'm pretty sure I've had two complaints about, well, not two complaints, but two complaints I've always had that I probably have shared in a lot of my summons videos. It's like everyone was always mad that they couldn't get a Chi-Chi, and I'm like, I wish I can get a Chi-Chi, because I'm constantly getting Jeans, D-Lukes, and Monas, but I'm not getting Chi-Chi. And I'm not getting Kachings, and so lately I've been getting my Chi-Chis, and I think my Chi-Chi is now C6, yeah, after I lost my 50-50. I ended up just slowly building Primos to finally go for Nilou to try to see if we could win, back-to-back 50. Well, not win back-to-back 50-50s, because the Navi I got was guaranteed, but to win another 50-50 and end up getting my last Chi-Chi. So Chi-Chi C6. And the last few videos ended up losing 50-50 and getting my Kaching. So it's just like, hey, we're not getting lucky, but we're sort of getting lucky. We have our Chi-Chi here. I originally had Blizzard Strayer on her, but we swapped to the Clam set. I ended up giving her the Summit Shaper. I know a lot of people say Summit Shaper is useless, but like I said, I'm a collector, so when the first banner that had Summon Shaper on it, I went for it, and I managed to get it. And then, of course, like I said, we originally had Blizzard Strayer on her, but then we swapped to the Clam set. So these are her pieces. I have all attack with, of course, healing bonus. I want to get some better pieces, but I feel like this is adequate for now. And we have our Ayaka. So, just like with our Ganyu ended up getting some pieces that ended up rolling decently well. And, of course, this is the stats I have with her. Ended up having, I don't know why I did that. The Mistsplitter Reforged. And then, of course, the 4-piece Blizzard Strayer with these pieces on her. So I ended up getting lucky with crit damage, surprisingly. So, this is one I would like to change. I want crit damage, but I had this crit rate with the crit damage, you know, the 13 on it. So I was just like, hey, it's not too bad. If it was the opposite, where I had crit damage with, you know, crit rate as the substat, it'd probably be a little bit better and whatnot. But I feel like it's perfect enough because, like I said, would I like a little bit more crit damage? Sure, but it's fine. I always, even with Blizzard Strayer, my goal, even if it would be kind of hard, my philosophy was always to get crit rate at least at or around 50%. So if it's somewhere between 45-50% after every single artifact is plus 20, then that would be perfect, you know, for crit rate for all of my characters. Like I said, other than Barber, but, you know, the rest of my characters. So that's the one thing I do try to work on with all of my characters. I want to try to get their crit rates at least to 50%. Even if it's not feasible, even if it could be useless on them, that's just the way I want to build them. So then we have Yaimiko. These are her stats. Of course, we have her signature on her. And then originally for her, I had Thundering Fury on her. And then, of course, just like with my Kuki, when Sumeru first came out, I immediately swapped to the Gilded Dream set. Basically because, you know, the extra elemental mastery along with the attack. I always, generally with my Electro teammates, or, you know, that I use Electro with, whether it's the Shogun or my Kaching, I always had at least just one more Electro. I know there's technically the, you know, whatever element mono team, which is 3 of the element with a animal character. I never used those team comps. I know that a lot of them can be viable and can be very, very powerful. And a matter of fact, there's a character that sort of depends on it, that being Lenny. It's just that I've always preferred playing with teams that had at least 2 reactions to them. Now I know one of my favorite team comps that I use now, which is my Overload team with Chevrolet, but it uses 2 of my favorite elements, being Electro and Pyro, so that's the one I don't mind about. But almost with every other team that I make, there's always at least 2 reactions for all of my teams. Like, for example, one of my favorite teams that I use is my Hyper Bloom team. It uses Bloom / Hyper Bloom, but depending on who I swap, it could also end up being a Electro Charge team. It could be a Aggravate team. It's just depending on how I decide to use the characters. My Plunge team, that's swirls and vaporizes. You know, that's just how I've always built teams. I always like to have at least 2 reactions. So we have this flower, this plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. And then we have my Nahida. I don't know how everyone else builds her. I'm pretty sure, just like with my Dia, I don't build my Nahida like everyone else has built her. I do have, as you can see, a lot of elemental mastery on her. I want to get her stats a bit higher. I ended up hyper focusing on trying to get as much elemental mastery that I kind of stunted my crit rate a little bit. I know you can get added crit rate, I think, with her C2, which I think I have. I'm not for sure. Do I have C2? Yeah, I do. But would I like to get more crit rate? Sure. But of course, she's ran the same way as my Sucrose with all elemental mastery. So of course we have her signature in R2. And then the artifacts, I have the Paradise Lost set on her, and I think most people would either use the Gilded or the Deepwood on her, but I know a lot of people use her just for her skill and burst and then immediately swap off. For the longest time before, and I still kind of do it even now, I do use her on field as kind of like a driver, because I feel like Catalyst users are meant to sort of be used as drivers in a way, because they can go ahead and apply the element just constantly. So that's the reason why I have the Paradise set on her, because it gives the extra increase in damage. And I think the set boosts the damage even if off field, but I do use the Hida on field a lot when I decide to go that method. So a lot of these will have crit rate, crit damage on them, so I got lucky. This is the only one I really want to change, because it doesn't have either crit rate or crit damage on it. I think this off piece, I ended up getting Elemental Master and Archaic Petric set, and I was just like, dude, you know, this is a 4-piece that has crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent. Hey, this is really good. I was just looking for just any Elemental Mastery piece, because I had these two already, but I was hoping to get a Elemental Mastery piece for the Paradise Lost set for the Sands, and then I could use just an off piece for my Goblet, but Fate had other plans, right? So I'll be slowly working on her as well, but overall, I feel like this is a decent Nahida. Then Tighnari have these stats. I want to get better crit damage with them. Surprisingly, my Tighnari is the same as my Yoimiya, twice over. So we have his signature, obviously, and because, like I said, because of that special banner, we end up getting a second Hunter's Path, which I gave to him. We are using 2-piece Wanderer, 2-piece Deepwood. It's funny, I originally had the 4-piece Deepwood on him. Then I ended up swapping to a 4-piece Wanderers. And the Wanderers pieces I have on him are just throwaway Wanderers pieces that I had just from, getting, rewards and everything. So we have these 2 pieces. And then this Elemental Mastery and Dendro. I've had this piece for a long time. I ended up getting this Blizzard Rare piece. I think it was like a month into Sumeru opening up, and I got this piece, and I was just like, oh, this would be perfect for, I didn't have Tighnari at the time. I had Kale. This was, I think, literally about a day or 2 before I ended up getting my Tighnari. I ended up putting it on my Kale, and then once I got Tighnari, I immediately swapped it. And then we have this crit rate circlet. So that's the reason why ultimately I went 2-piece, because I don't know if a 4-piece Deepwood is better for him, or if the 4-piece Wanderers is better for him. I sort of use him on field a lot, sometimes not. A lot of times what I like to do is I like to use his skill, get the 3 quick shots off, and then use his burst and then swap off. Because normally I will pair him with either Nahida or my Kirara. And of course, Nahida can supply a lot of Dendro and inside, but Kirara sort of can't. At least not to the frequency that Nahida can. So, and then of course, like I said, my Kirari has the Deepwood. Of course, my Nahida, as y'all saw, didn't. So, originally, I ended up playing him with Nahida a whole lot. And so, of course, that's the reason why I had the 4-piece Deepwood on him. But then I started playing him a little bit more with Kirara, and then my Kirara has a 4-piece Deepwood. So I was just like, they don't stack, so, you know, maybe I could go, you know, Wanderer. So it's like, I don't know which one it is. Maybe in the comment section, y'all let me know how y'all end up using your Tighnari if you're a user of them. Then we have my Ayato. For the longest time, I believe, and of course this is his weapon, for the longest time I think for the longest time, I didn't use him a whole lot, but I think for the longest time I ended up having 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Heart of Depth on him. And then I ended up swapping to just a 4-piece Gladiator set. I know a lot of people say his best set is the, what is it? I know I have some pieces. Maybe, maybe not. There we go. The Echoes set, but I just don't, I mean, I get it. It's like each time, you know, you hit when an attack and it doesn't crit, it increases the potential for the, you know, or whatever, it increases the potential to get that extra bonus damage strike. But I feel like, why use a set that will increase the attack once or something like that before the buff ends and whatnot, and you have to build it up again. I mean, I guess I could sort of say, considering you can do so many strikes with Ayato, but the Echoes set just reminds me too much of the, if I'm not mistaken, it's the Royal set, weapon set, and it's just like, you get that increase in damage and whatnot, but you only get to use it for one strike and then it resets. I mean, why not just have a set that just boosts the damage overall, you know, for a longer period of time? So that's why I ended up going 4-piece Gladiator. And I know my Ayato's probably not built the best with this. A lot of these pieces are just throwaway pieces that, you know, I just happen to use on them. So if I was someone that used them a lot more frequently, I probably would invest more. I mean, I will in the future, but for right now, not so much. Then we have our Yelan. I don't know why I did that. Here's the stats, in which I'm just looking at these now. Didn't realize I had that much crit damage on her, but okay. I don't use her a whole lot. I know a lot of people use her as an alternative to Sin Show. I just don't use her a whole lot. We have her signature, and then we have the emblem set on her. Here are her artifacts. I know I probably need to get some better ones, like for example this circlet. It's just I need to. A lot of the characters that I have emblem pieces on, I have like mostly good pieces on them, but there's just one piece, and generally it ends up being the circlet for a lot of these characters that use the emblem set. But there are some that have the emblem set on that there's one piece that really sucks or doesn't fit. It's just that it's the only one I have, so it's just like I'm waiting to get a piece to be able to replace it. And that's what this is. I'm basically waiting for another crit damage circlet to replace this one. Either that, or actually I'm not going to replace this one. Excuse me. I'm not going to replace this hydro damage bonus because I actually really like it. I don't think I'd be able to get another one like it. If we somehow get a hydro damage, circlet of the emblem set that's as good as this one, then obviously we'll swap. But I'm more hopeful that I'm probably going to get a better crit damage circlet than a emblem set hydro damage goblet. And then we have our Kokomi, of course, negative 95, 50, which is, I would say, not a surprise, somewhat a surprise. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, there might be some people that might have that. For the longest time, I had negative 50 crit rate on her because I ended up getting a bunch of crit rate on a lot of the pieces I had on her originally. So we have her signature, the donut. And then I originally had on her the clam set. I ended up swapping to the Songs of Days Past just simply because I think I mentioned this before. The team I used her a lot on was my Dia team, which is, of course, like I said, Dia, Sucrose, her, and Shinha. And so I originally had, like I said, I originally had the clam set, but I didn't really need the extra damage, so I swapped off the clam set, and for the longest time I had tenacity on her. So that's what I had before that domain opened, and I was just like, you know what? It's like, yes, with tenacity, that's that constant, 10% extra attack. But even though her jellyfish does have a decent attack range, the fact is it doesn't move. And it only splashes about, 5 times. And then sometimes, y'all have seen with me with my rotation, sometimes I stick on a character for a little bit too long and I lose buffs that I probably should lose if I were to, do the rotations correctly. So I decided to swap to this set to be able to give the extra damage to my Dia. Generally, I'll use the buffs from Shinha and Sucrose and then burst with my Dia, and then by the time generally her burst ends, the extra damage from the Hereafter set along with the Songs of Days Past using its buff will buff all the normal attacks that Dia dishes out for the next few times before I do the rotation again. So that's why I use this set with her. So we have this, and this. And I wish I didn't have these defensive rolls for a lot of these pieces. I wish I could have gotten, Elemental Mastery. Either Elemental Mastery or Attack percent or Attack. But the only reason I have all of these equipped on her is just because these are all pieces that do not have crit rate or crit damage on them. Then we have our Arlecchino. So, for the longest time, she was a little bit worse when I first got her than now. I ended up getting real lucky about just before Cloran came out and got a decent, if I'm not mistaken, a crit rate circlet. Because the ratio was take out, if I'm not mistaken, take out 30 crit rate and add, 50 to 60 crit damage, and that was her ratio for the longest time. But I ended up getting a crit rate circlet, which helped out. Now I'm looking for pieces to kind of just slightly trim off some of the crit rate to add some more crit damage. Of course, we have her signature, and then we have the Harmonic Whimsy set on her. So, as you can see, some of them have high crit rate, some have high crit damage. This is just an attack stance that I have on her because I just needed attack sands on her. And then we have this pyro damage goblin, and then this circlet that I ended up getting. Like I said, I originally had crit damage on her. I basically, when I got just before Cloran came out, I got this, and it sucked because originally it was a 3-statter, and then the 4th stat, as you can see, was defense percent. And it rolled mainly into defense percent, but I did manage to get a roll, I think, or maybe 2, I can't remember, into crit damage. I was hoping it would have mainly went into crit damage and attack, but, you can't control how these will go. But I at least got the crit rate, circlet, which is the main thing that I wanted. But I'm still working on my Arlecchino because I want to try to raise the crit damage up a little bit. Like I said, there's this piece and basically this the circlet and the flower. The circlet because I wish I had a little bit more crit damage in this flower, because now that I have a crit rate circlet, the crit rate on this is kind of insane. I wish it would have been the opposite. Swap the crit rate and crit damage. That would have been perfect. But she still hits like a dang truck, especially considering I ended up raising her normal attack and everything. And just the different teams, just learning about that new team with using her in combination with Candace. Not to say that I didn't use Candace a whole lot, but I usually will pair Arlecchino with her nowadays. Then we have our Yunjin. My Yunjin had way better stats in the past, but that was because I kind of had her built wrong. So we have that, and then we have the Favonius Lance, in which originally I had Skyward Lance on her. And I don't know which one is better. I just currently right now have Favonius Lance on her. Originally, like I said, for the longest time I had Skyward Lance on her. I basically had it for the crit rate boost. And then of course we're using the Hush set. So we have this flower, this plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. So of course, since I'm using a Favonius weapon, I want to have the crit rate up a little bit. Like I said, the reason the stats are a little bit different is these are both, I originally didn't have these. I originally had attack and then Geo bonus, and I just built her like that originally because I just had these pieces, and so I had better crit stats. But of course, you know, since she has a lot of her bonuses and everything from defense, I wasn't really gaining all that much. And then we have Goro. So, I feel like this is a decent Goro. I kind of wish I had the 1-2 ratio, but you know, it's kind of close. Of course, we have the Warbow with them, and then have I don't know why I hit that. I originally had a 4-piece husk on him, but then realized, you know, it might be a little harder to keep the 4-piece effect on him. Maybe, I'm not for sure, but also, even though I had the 4-piece on him, I decided to swap to 2-2 because the energy recharge I had on him was really low. The pieces I had on him before, I only ended up, out of all the 5 pieces I had, he only got a bonus, not bonus, but you know, an extra 50% energy recharge from all 5 pieces. So he was only at 115 energy recharge, and I wanted it way higher. So we have this crit damage circlet. I mean, not crit damage circlet. This HP flower, which ended up having a bunch of crit damage on it. And then we have this plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. And we have our Ningguang. For the longest time, her stats were a little bit different. Her energy recharge were lower. Her crit rate was about the same. I had a little bit higher crit damage. That's because originally, after, I can't remember what character that is now, but I said that I had, I think it was my Sucrose, or no, not Sucrose, my Mona. Mona had Solar Pearl, but then when I decided to swap my Yanfei to give her Cognitive Verity, I gave the Lost Prayers to Mona. So I ended up giving the Solar Pearl I originally had on Mona to Ningguang. So since she had a crit rate weapon, I ended up having a crit damage circlet. So she has the Solar Pearl, and then I originally had the 4-piece Archaic on her, just basically because it was like, it's the Geo set, and that's what I originally put on her, but it was just like, it's kind of hard. Usually with Ningguang, even though she probably works best with just having multiple elements, I ended up just putting her in a mono Geo team. And like I said, I don't really like using mono teams a whole lot, but that's the only one I kind of really used, was a mono Geo of using her Zhongli, Noelle, and then I had Electro Traveler. That was something I messed with all in Inazuma. It's a team I started to mess with because I couldn't get through the first battle you had with Shogun at the statue. I just couldn't get through it. So I ended up using a Mono Geo team to be able to try to get through it. And it's funny, even with that team, it was close, but I still couldn't do it. I ended up having to boost my Electro Traveler and my Noelle to be able to get through that, to be able to just heal enough to be able to just continue to fight. But we have this flower, this plume, this sands, this goblet, and this circlet. I will work on my Ningguang once I get some of my other characters, worked on and everything. But, I feel like she's fine right now. Then we have our Farazan. Farazan had just recently gone to some changes because I decided to change some things. Here's her stats. She has the elegy. Originally, I had the stringless on her. And then I'm using the emblem set for her. I originally had two-piece. I ended up using two-piece emblem, two-piece Werner originally on her. But I decided to swap to a full emblem set because I decided to go full in on using her as a buffer for my Wanderer that I started to get a little bit more into. So we have this flower here, this plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. Then we have Sayu. Would I like to get my crit rate up? Sure, but just like with some other characters, she is full on attack if I'm not mistaken. So I have decent elemental mastery and decent energy recharge. The energy recharge is from her weapon. Not weapon, artifacts. I originally had the Inazuman craftable on her, but I ended up swapping to the Aquamarine basically for the bonus attack from Elemental Mastery. So that's why her Elemental Mastery is up to 400. Because before I swapped, her Elemental Mastery was only, I think, maybe at like 150, something like that. But I ended up investing more into Elemental Mastery so I could take advantage of this buff. And then we're using a 4-piece Werner on her. So we have this flower, this plume. We have energy recharge. Originally this was attack. I thought I had full on attack. I originally did have full on attack. I had not full on attack, but I had attack, sands, an attack, goblet, and a healing bonus circlet. But we have energy recharge here and an attack. This is the same attack that I had earlier, and then of course healing bonus. I had a Verna healing bonus because, like I said, originally this was attack, but I decided to switch to energy recharge just simply because I wanted to get her burst up more often. And like I said, originally I had the Inazuman craftable claymore on her, which of course gives energy recharge. So I just ended up swapping the weapon for the artifact. Then we have Mika with his stats here. I originally had better crit rate, but the crit damage was less than his crit rate, so I wanted to change that. Then of course you have the energy recharge, which I feel like is fine. I kind of really do want a little bit more energy recharge, but we'll work on that. End up having Skyward Spine on him, and then of course 4-piece Noblesse. You have this flower, this plume, this sands, this goblet, and this circlet. Ended up getting lucky with some, stats. The only thing is, I wish some of these crit damage pieces that only have just, one stat, I wish they were crit rate. But, Then we have our Layla. I really want to raise her crit rate and crit damage, but I'm only using the pieces that I was able to get. And just like with my Kirara, I originally had the Summit Shaper originally on my Layla, but I ended up swapping to the Dock Hands. Basically for Kirara, it was for the Elemental Mastery. For Layla, it is just only for the main stat, the fact that it is HP. And then of course we have Tenacity for Layla. Have this flower, this plume, this sands, this goblet, and this circlet. So I ended up going full HP. I originally ended up having, HP, and then crit rate. But I decided to swap to full HP. So we'll work on some pieces to try to see if we can get some higher crit rate, because I kind of really want, or higher crit rate, crit damage, because I really want to get the crit rate and crit damage. And then we have Rosaria. So we have her at these stats, which is a little bit better than what I had originally. My full goal is to try to get her to get 100 crit rate. I feel like I'm getting there, because originally I only had about 26 to 28 crit rate on her originally. I ended up swapping some pieces, so ended up tremendously gaining some crit rate, but I want to get her to 100% so I can maximize her passive, or when she uses her burst, she passes off her 50% of her crit rate to her allies. So we have the Missive Wind Spear for her. I originally had another weapon for her, which is the same weapon she has in her demo, which is the where are you? I know I crafted one. Oh yeah, there it is. The Dragon Spine Spear. And the only reason I had it equipped on her is because she uses it in her demo. And I know both people would be like, well, why did you craft this weapon? Why I craft everything, you know, to try to get at least a copy of everything. So I have each of these Dragon Spine weapons, the spear, the claymore, and the catalyst. Unfortunately, the only one that ever really truly saw any play was the claymore, when I originally used that on my Chan Yun. I only used it for a short while before I was able to craft the prototype weapon. And then of course we have Blizzard Strayer on her. Actually, I think we have 2-piece Blizzard Strayer, 2-piece Noblesse on her. So end up getting lucky, got a whole bunch of pieces other than this one that have crit rate or crit damage on him. So I'm still going to be looking for pieces to try to, you know, be able to replace these so I can get that 100% crit rate. It'd be nice if I can get 100% crit rate, 200% crit damage, but I doubt that would ever happen. But if I could at least get her to 100% crit rate, that would work for me. Then we have our Diona, which is near identical crit rate, crit damage with the energy recharge. We have the Warbow, and then we're using the 4-piece Noblesse, obviously. This is the flower, plume, the sands, goblet, and the circlet. A lot of these pieces, as you probably have guessed, are just the throwaway pieces. I just needed something to fit with the main stat. I wasn't really concerned with the, well, not concerned, but it's just I was more concerned with at least making sure I had the correct main stat. And so that's what's going on with her. So we are going to work on that. But, you know, we'll get other characters done first. And we have Kaya. We have this with the crit rate and crit damage. I think I have 4-piece Blizzard Stray on her, on him, sorry. But I do want to raise the crit rate at least another 10%. We have the Wolf Fang on him. I originally had this for my Hydro Traveler, but I felt like the Black Sword probably would have fit better because that's what I originally had on Kaya was the Black Sword. I just didn't really need the bonus, you know, gaining health along with the crit rate. The crit rate on him. So of course we have this flower, this plume, this sands, the goblet, and the circlet. Overall, like I said, I want to raise the crit rate up just a little bit. We are, like I said, we are using Blizzard Strayer, so it's not that bad. It's just I would like it a little bit higher. And we have Fischl, of course, with the stats here. My Fischl, I believe I said it before, I originally had her on 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Bloodstained, and had a better crit rate, crit damage ratio, but it kind of really didn't make that much sense. It wasn't that I wasn't using her as a physical DPS and wasn't having her on field a whole lot, but it kind of was that. It's not like I wasn't using it, it's just that I wasn't using it enough to be able to justify it, if you know what I mean. And then we're using the Alley Hunter weapon. I originally had on her the Stringless, and then I ended up swapping off the Stringless. I just had the Stringless on her because it was the only, 4-star bow that I had that I could give her. And then we ended up swapping to I forget what the bow is, but where are you? It wasn't the Rust. I forget what it was. Oh, that's right. I originally had gave her after I ended up getting a copy of Skyward Harp, so that's what we ended up giving her. And then I ended up swapping to this Song of Stillness, and then we ended up swapping to Alley Hunter, which is what we have now. Basically because Hunter ends up increasing damage while the character is off field, and basically that's what I use Fischl for, basically for Oz. And so that's the reason why we ended up swapping from our 2-piece to Golden Troop. And I ended up having to farm another set because, like I said, most of the pieces that are on my arena were originally on my Fischl. So I don't think I did too bad with the replacements. There are just some pieces that I feel like I would want another crack at or something like that. Like, for example, this circlet and it was this one, the flower and the circlet, just to have a little bit more either crit rate or energy recharge. Then we have our Beidou here, using the Serpent Spine R5, and then using the 4-piece emblem set, in which I need to work on. A lot of the pieces that are on her are some of the less than stellar pieces I had on some of my characters that used the set, that I kind of just needed to give her to fill in and whatnot. The only one that I kind of originally had for her was this crit damage circlet. All the rest of these pieces are all pieces from other characters. Like this Sans was the Sans I originally had on my on my Chanyun before I got a better Sans for him. This feather was the feather I originally had on my Shogun, and this flower was the flower piece I originally had on my Mona. So they're just some of the less than stellar pieces I had on other characters. I do need to work on her, you know, a little bit, but overall I feel like this is fine, at least for now. Then we have our Lisa. The weapon we have on her is the Fruit of Fulfillment. I originally had Favonia's Codex on her. I wanted the energy recharge, but because I wanted to do a lot with Elemental Mastery, or at least do stuff that dealt with the elemental reactions, I decided to I had already crafted this weapon, and I had figured this would probably be a good weapon for Lisa, because you get Elemental Mastery while losing attack, and it's just like, well, you want her for the Elemental Mastery anyway to boost the elemental reactions and whatnot. So that's the reason why I raised up this weapon. It also helps that it is energy recharge as the main stat. And then I am using Thundering Fury on her, as I always have. So this is the flower, the plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. So I kind of want to raise the Elemental Mastery just a little bit. And if I could just raise crit damage, you know, up just a little bit, then that'd be fine. But I feel like this is fine the way she is. Then we have our Cadence. So I originally had, just like with my Sucrose, I ended up having a more DPS-y Cadence. I ended up having a balance of 50 something crit rate and about 90 something crit damage, with the energy recharge being about the same amount. I think it was like 145, but basically the same amount of energy recharge on her. But of course I didn't have this rifle reward on her at first. I only had I originally had something else on her. I think I originally had a Skyward Spine on her originally. No, I didn't. I originally had Moon Piercer on her originally, and then I thought about putting a Skyward Spine on her, but that was before Fontaine came out. Once Fontaine came out and I found out about the craftables, I was like, I'm definitely gonna get her this weapon, and so we have that on her. And then we have her on Noblesse. I originally had her on a 4-piece emblem set, but like I said, when Arlecchino came out, I had thought about pairing her up with Cadence, and then that strat came out that, you know, using Cadence with her boost to normal attacks when they're infused with an element, along with the fact that after you get Cadence to, what is it, C6 or something like that, she gives a burst of hydro damage after a certain interval, so you can get a whole bunch of vaporizers with Arlecchino. I decided to swap to a Noblesse set so that can give bonus attack to Arlecchino. So I feel like I have some decent pieces for her. I just wish I had crit rate and crit damage for all the pieces, but I was basically just trying to get the main stat with trying to get at least enough energy recharge. So that's the one thing I'm kind of working on, to try to raise the crit rate and crit damage up, along with raise the energy recharge up just a little bit. But I feel like that's decent enough for now. So then we have Sincho here. We have the crit rate and the crit damage along with the energy recharge. And I usually don't worry about the energy recharge with them, at least not anymore, because I'm using the Amenoma Kageuchi with them. Got that up to R4, plan on getting into the R5. I think I really only needed R3, but I decided to just go higher because it's like, hey, you know, it's better, you know, getting it higher, right? So we have that, and then wrong thing. And then we have this, the flower, the plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. A lot of these pieces I got, you know, lucky on and whatnot, and just threw them on them. Mainly really just this one. The rest of them were, you know, I got the pieces, put them on, and they upgraded to decent levels and everything. This one was just the throwaway that I just needed just to be able to complete the emblem set. Then we have our Chevreuse with these stats. I wish I had just a little bit more crit rate, about maybe 10 more crit rate, I'd be fine. But I feel like she does alright. Have a Staff of Homa on her, and then we have the Songs of Day Pass on her also. And so this one, as you can see, got real lucky with crit damage. I wish one of the rolls would have went into crit rate. This one I think was a 3-statter, so of course the 4th stat was Elemental Mastery. I wish it was a 4-statter, that way I would have had a little bit more crit rate, but you know, still, I feel like this is a pretty dang good piece. And then we have this, and then this sands, and this goblet, and then this circlet. There's the only one that I wish I could change. I've been going pretty much almost every day at least once to that domain to try to see if I could get a crit rate circlet, and I still have yet to get one, but you know, we're still going to be trying to go for that. But I feel really, really good about my Chevreuse. I really love her in my Overload teams, just brilliant. Then we have our Toma here, the standard. Have the Contain Cross Spear on him. I don't know the difference, you know, between using this or Favonius Lance. I just use the Contain just basically for the energy recharge. I hit the wrong button. And then we have 2-piece Tenacity, 2-piece Emblem, basically just a little bit extra for his shield, and then have the energy recharge to be able to burst constantly. So the flower, the plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. And we have our Xinyan here. I actually had a different ratio, I ended up having nearly 50% crit rate and a little bit less crit damage, but didn't realize that you ended up getting a crit rate of 100% on her burst thanks to her passive. So we ended up making a change to change that. Originally, I ended up having a different weapon on her, and then we swapped to the Unforged because, of course, obviously, you know, extra shield strength, and pretty much is protected by a shield almost constantly. And then I'm using the Bolide set on her because if I do use Xinyan, I usually do use her as the on-field character, and so since, you know, she ends up having a shield most of the time and whatnot, they're just extra attack. And then of course Bolide increases, you know, normal attack and charge attack, and one of her constellations deal with giving her increased normal, I think either normal or charged attack damage, along with the stamina consumption on that being reduced, or there's no cost to use it at all. So I feel like it's a win-win. But you know, here's the flower, the plume, the sands, the goblet, circlet. I kind of wish I had on all my pieces attack and defense %, but you know, I just took with what I could get. Then here we have our Bennett. I ended up originally having different crit values on him because I ended up going the DPS route. Like I said, there are a few characters that I didn't realize about or whatnot because I didn't really build them. Of course, you know, that being Shincho, Bennett, Xiangling. You know, I didn't really use these characters a whole lot. And so afterwards I changed it so that he'd have energy recharge to be able to burst constantly. Ended up giving him the Aquila Fabiona. I originally had the Skyward Sword on him, but I was just like, you know, if we could get energy recharge off of pieces, then we should be fine, and I could swap. So we have these pieces here. Then we have our Amber. She is built, but she is currently somewhat a work in progress. I wanted to get some higher crit values off of her, but yeah, I'm kind of, you know, changing it up a little bit at the moment. So ended up giving her the Cloud Forge, and then ended up swapping some of the artifacts she had around. Originally I had the emblem set on her, but I ended up switching to Shimaneras to take advantage of the attack bonus. And then of course we have attack, pyro, crit rate. Originally I think I had energy recharge, even though she doesn't really need it. I just had that because the energy recharge sands that I ended up having was almost god tier. It was energy recharge with a decent amount of crit rate and a whole lot of crit damage, and then of course the pyro and the crit rate. But we changed it up a little bit because I'm experimenting with this new setup, so I haven't really tested it out yet. And we have our Ito here. So I worked on him a little bit, got a little bit higher crit rate. He had 15% less crit rate, and so got that up a little bit. Of course, using his signature and using the husk, obviously. And so this is where the extra crit rate came from. I had, I think this was a crit damage circlet originally, and I ended up having, like, what was it, like, 20 something crit rate with the crit damage circlet, but the other stats on it were, I think it was like HP, flat HP, and then a flat attack and attack percent. So I decided to change it out so I can get the defense, because of course obviously he scales with defense. So we have that, we have that, we have that, we have that, we have that. We have our Abado. Then we have his weapon, obviously. I originally had on him, obviously before he ended up getting his own weapon, the Spindle. I ended up having, I think I had a Favonius sword on him originally. And then I started building him. He was the first character I ended up putting the Husk set on. So here's the flower, the bloom, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. We have my wanderer. I wish I had a little bit more energy recharge, but you know, any of the pieces that I get ended up sacrificing something, so right now this is what he currently has. It's that. We have our Shao, which ended up getting better. We have his Jade Wingtip Spear, and then I'm using, of course, just like with Dia, I'm using the Hereafter set. We have this flower, this plume, sand, goblet, and circlet. The reason why it's somewhat a little bit better is because of this circlet, believe it or not. The ratio before, as you can see, because of the circlet being 66, had a ratio of 47, 80 something, and so that helped out a whole lot. I'm still kind of working on it, but hey, you know, what can you do? Then here we have our Venti. So we have a whole bunch of elemental mastery on him. I don't know how to build him, whether to build him as a DPS or just to use elemental mastery on him. So I think that's what I have him built as, with elemental mastery on him. So we have the Elegy for his weapon, and then we have the Verner set, obviously, and I think we have elemental mastery straight across the board. Oh no, we have animal damage here and then elemental mastery. I think originally I did have elemental mastery straight across the board, but I don't know if I wanted to build them, you know, DPS-y or whatever, so that's the reason why the animal damage bonus is here. So the elemental oh, nice, excuse me. The elemental mastery goblet I had on him anyway was way worse than this, because it was just 2 HP stats, then attack and defense. So at least this one has energy recharge. So I don't know, I might go back to elemental mastery if I can get another one, or I might go DPS-y. I don't know for sure. Then we have our built Aloy here. So we have these stats. I'm using the 4-piece Blizzard Strayer on her. We have the Thundering Pulse on her. I originally had the weapon on her. This the Waltz on her, because of course, obviously, you can get increases in elemental skill damage and your normal attack by using each other, and with Aloy's bonus of if you can get the hits from her skill, if I'm not mistaken, one of her passives makes it so that you can get the infusion along with the increase in normal attack damage, kind of similarly to like Yoimiya. So that's what I originally had, but I was like, you know what, it might be better to have the Thundering Pulse, because that works also with the normal attack damage, but also probably increases the attack higher if you can get it, and then of course it increases attack just straight up. And this also helps me to have the spare Thundering Pulse I had, give it to somebody. This Thundering Pulse that's on Aloy, originally I was going to give it to Yoimiya to raise her Thundering Pulse to R5, but I was just like, there are some weapons I have that I could give them to other characters to raise their refinement levels of the weapons they have up a higher level, but some of those weapons I said, you know what, I'm going to keep them because you never know, they might be useful for a new character that's coming out down the line, and so I'm actually kind of glad that I ended up keeping the Thundering Pulse to give to Aloy. And then of course we have the 4-piece Blizzard Strayer on her, so we have this flower, this plume, this sands, this goblet, and this circlet. Next up we have Cyno with nearly identical crit rate and crit damage. I want to change that, maybe lower the crit rate, get some more crit damage, but a lot of the pieces he has was mainly about trying to get energy recharge and elemental mastery. So we have his signature, and then we're using the Gilded Dreams 4-piece set. So we have this flower, this plume, elemental mastery sands, an electro damage goblet, and the crit rate circlet. This is the only piece that didn't focus on, elemental mastery, energy recharge. I think everyone else has at least energy recharge or elemental mastery on them. Generally energy recharge. That's what I was hoping for, either or. We have I'll Hate Them. Oh man, I've been talking so long. Want to get the crit rate up just a tiny little bit. It's just a pet peeve of mine with him, but I think that's basically because I know a lot of people can do work with them. I can't, so I feel like getting the crit rate up will help me kind of get that better, We're also using the 4-piece gilded for him. I don't really have that good of pieces on him. These are just pieces I threw on him that just had the main stat on them, just so that I could have the set completed. So we'll be working on these so I can get them better. And we have our Siegeween here. Then we have her weapon, which I managed to get. Luckily, we managed to get it in time. Almost thought it was going to be another Risley where I would be super close to being able to get it, or build up pity and whatnot to be able to get it, but would just be short and miss out. But luckily, we got it. And then we're using a 2-piece for Cautious, 2-piece Tenacity for her. So these are the pieces. This is the only one I kind of hate because it's like it doesn't have flat HP on it, but still, the fact that we got 40,000. I can't remember what her cap is. I think it's 60, 60,000 or something like that. So, we'll try to see if we can get better pieces so I can hopefully max out on her passive. And we have Nilou here. I want to raise her crit rate up just a bit, but just like with the Sino, I was more concerned with her HP, so try to get that up really high. We have the key, and then we're using the same as Sijuin, 2-piece tenacity, 2-piece for Kasha. So we have this. I really like this piece, sorta. I really wish one of the crit damage rolls would have went into crit rate, but you know, still 32.6 crit damage. Of course, with this, I'm not mad. I was kind of looking for energy recharge. I do just wish one of those energy recharges would have went into crit rate. And then we have this HP piece, and then this HP piece, which I did have another HP piece on her originally that had crit rate, but it was this, and the HP roll was swapped to crit rate. So I was like, I want to have the flat HP so I can get some more HP on her. And then we have this circlet from this Crimson Witch circlet that I've been holding on to for a very long time, and so I was like, this is finally useful. I originally had this on my Hu Tao, but I think I wanted to swap her circlet to either crit rate or crit damage, so I ended up giving this to Nilou because she needed it. And we have Child here. These are his stats. The weapon, of course, his signature, the Polar Star. I originally had on him the Skyward Harp. And then the artifacts, I originally had a 4-piece Heart of Death. I just basically had it just for the Hydro set. But I ended up switching to the Nymph's Dream. Basically because I figured most likely any pieces I got from the new domain, you know, at the time, probably would have been way better than the Heart of Death pieces I had. So this is the flower, the plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. I got lucky with some of the pieces, while some of the other pieces are like meh, so we'll be working on them, maybe. I'm not really into Child all that much, don't really use them a whole lot, so, you know, when I do decide to kind of build them is when I kind of finish building maybe some other characters. Then we have Lenny here. Have these stats. Kind of want to have a little bit more crit damage and a little bit more energy recharge, but it's just how the pieces I have on him rolled. We have his signature, the First Great Magic, and then we're using the Marche Hunter set on him as well. We have this flower, this plume, the sands, the Pyro Goblet, and the circlet. I decided to use a crit rate circlet because I ended up just rolling this one just to see how it would roll, and because of the 20% crit damage, I said, you know, that'd be fine. Would I like to have crit damage on it, considering you'll get crit rate, you know, from the set? Yes, but I haven't played with Lenny a whole lot, so it's just like, you know, we'll see. If I feel like I could play him a whole lot better and whatnot, then I might swap out that crit rate circuit for crit damage. But for now, that's what we have. We have our Hu Tao, which obviously, as you can see, I really do need to raise the crit rate. We have the Staff of Homa, obviously. And then, like I said, I originally had that HP piece on her. but I gave that to Nilou because I got this crit damage circlet. Of course, it's not really that good of a circlet, but hey, it has the main stat. Then of course we have the flower, the plume, the sands, and the goblet. This pyro goblet I originally had on my Hu Tao on my Yanfei, but I ended up swapping them because I use my Yanfei a whole lot more than I use my Hu Tao. Then we have Cleave with these stats. We have the Lost Prayer on her. I ended up getting this after a loss on the standard banner. Well, not a loss, but you know, I was hoping for a character, ended up getting a weapon, and ended up getting this. And then we're using 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Crimson for her. You have this flower, this plume, this sands, the goblet, and the circlet. Just basically all throwaway pieces, basically just to get the main stats on her. So we'll be working on her to try to get her better. Then we have D-Luke with these stats. We have the Wolf's Gravestone on him. Then we have the 4-piece Crimson on him. And then we have this plume, sands, goblet, and the circlet. The set, I think most of these pieces were just throwaway Crimson Witch pieces while I was trying to farm for my Yanfei for a long time. I ended up just putting these pieces on him that had the main stat on them, and a lot of these pieces were 3-piece rolls that I ended up just getting lucky with a lot of them. Other than this one ended up, the 4th one ended up being defense percent. All the rest of them, as you can see, the 4th stat ended up being something that he could use. And so these are all pieces that I had on D-Luke for a very long time, at least for a year and a half, almost 2 years. I just didn't really build him up. I just had just the artifacts on him. The only thing that was raised on him was just his weapon. So I'm surprised that they ended up rolling the way that they did. Then we have Lynette here. I want to raise her crit values up a little bit because I feel like she could be an excellent driver for a lot of teams, and especially considering that she's animal and she has her burst, which can infuse as well. Is I think just the overall good character. I just need to have better stats with some of her kit. She has Freedom Sworn. I originally had another weapon on her. It was a 4-star, I believe. I think, oh yeah, originally I had Wolf Fang on her, basically for the crit rate. But I figured, you know, using her abilities along with using Freedom Sworn's Elemental Mastery and that boost, because I think the boost for gives attack increase anyway. I figured that Freedom Sworn would be a better choice for her. So here we have the flower, the plume, the sands, the goblet, and the circlet. Like I said, overall I kind of wish had a little bit more. Get some pieces that had crit rate and crit damage. We'll be working on that, but at least for right now, I feel like she's fine. She's serviceable. Then we have our Hazo here with these stats. I did have way higher crit rate and crit damage values on him, but I didn't have that much energy recharge. and a lot of his pieces that he had, we have the Skyward Atlas here, a lot of the pieces that he had I ended up giving to my Wanderer, so I ended up having to farm another set for Hazo. And so these are the pieces that he has now. And so I'll be working on trying to fix his pieces so I can get him back to where we had him before. Because I feel like before I started to build my Wandering, ended up giving Hazo those pieces, my Hazo could hit just like my Yoimiya could hit like a truck. But I gave a lot of those pieces to my Wanderer. And of course here we have Sethos. We have the stats here. Kind of wish I have a little bit more crit damage, but that's fine. The weapon, the Scion and the Blazing Sun, I originally had this on my Amber before I decided to swap the weapons to give him his this weapon. Then of course we're using the Gilded Dreams set on him. We have these pieces here. Of course, I wish this one was better, but of course it's Elemental Mastery. It's kind of hard to come by, so you know. And then we need to get a 5-star. If we could get either of these replaced, then that'd be fine. Then we have our Dory here. Dory is just like my Sucrose. Again, like I had her built mainly as a DPS before I swapped what she has. So, like I said before, my Sayu originally had the Nagamasa. I ended up giving it to Dory. And then, giving it to Dory when I got the Aquamarine. And then we're using the 4-piece Noblesse for Dory. I originally had a 4-piece emblem set on Dory. So a lot of these pieces are new. And so they're just serviceable for me. We'll be working on that because I actually do like Dory's kit, especially when I had the Thundering Fury set on her. She did so much damage in my teams that required Electro. You know, either Electro Charge or she was one of the first Electro characters I used in my Hyper Bloom teams before I decided to swap to using Kuki. Then we have Kujo Sara. These are her stats. Weapon, we have Skyward Harp on her. I've changed weapons on her so many times, and so the stats are, you know, been changing a whole lot with her. Originally I had the Inazuman craftable bow on her. It should still be here. I didn't use it. I can't find it. I'm more than sure I didn't use it. I could be totally wrong though. I hope I did, and it looks like I might have did, which is kind of dumb because I haven't used. I usually don't do that. I must have accidentally used it as fodder. I had the Inazuman craftable bow on her, and then we ended up swapping to the Moon's Moon. And then I originally gave her, not originally, but I then gave her Fading Twilight. And then I was kind of swapping between Fading Twilight and Moon's Moon, and then we finally eventually settled on Skyward Harp. And then we have the 4-piece Noblesse on her. And these are the artifacts. Then we have our Razor, in which we need to raise the crit rate, obviously. We have Skyward Pride for him, and then we're using the Pale Flame set for him, so these are the artifacts for him. The same thing that happened with Eula is the same thing that's happening with Razor. I really want this to be a crit rate circlet, end up getting a crit damage. This is a piece that I just put on him just to get the 4-piece set. Then we have Yaya with these stats. We have the Rifle Reward as her weapon, and we're using the Maiden's Beloved set with her. These are just pieces also that I ended up getting as rewards from completing those challenges in the book. So the only one obviously is this one. So these are all Maiden's Beloved pieces that I just had lying around. We have Kale here, in which ended up getting better. Going for Deepwood pieces, I ended up getting some better Deepwood pieces, which helped her crit rate and crit damage, of course. A little bit more crit rate than I want, a little bit less crit damage than I want, but still, it did raise the levels up a bit. We're using the Viridescent Hunt. I originally had this weapon, the King's Squire, on her, and then I think I ended up swapping to something else, and then we ended up switching to this because I just wanted the crit rate. Then we're using the 4-piece Deepwood set for her. Like I said, ended up swapping a few pieces. I think this was one. I originally only had crit damage on this one, so I found a piece that had crit rate and crit damage, and just how it rolled. And then this piece, I had a Dendro Goblet, but it didn't have any crit rate or crit damage, so I swapped to this one that had crit damage. It was a 3-roll, and the fourth stat ended up being just flat attack. I was hoping it was going to be crit rate, but it ended up rolling mainly into HP and energy recharge. And then we have this crit rate circlet, which I did exchange out. I originally had a crit damage circlet, but it didn't have crit rate, so I changed to this one that was a crit rate that had crit damage, and that's how I rolled. We have our Baiju. I kind of want to raise the HP up just a little bit, but I'm kind of just working on it. Kind of working on just raising his level up. Then we have this, Jadefall Splendor. I don't know why I keep exiting out sometimes. And then we're also using the 4-piece Deepwood set on him. And these are the artifacts I have for him. Kind of a work in progress, but still a lot of these are decent, at least I feel like. Now we have New Ballet. These are his stats. Kind of wish have the, I mean, I know we're using the Marseille Hunter set, but I want to have at least another 10 to 15% crit rate on him. Just a little bit more comfortable for me. We're using his signature. And then, like I said, we're using the Marseille, and these are his stats. A lot of these Marseille Hunter pieces are just throwaway pieces that I put on him just to finish the set, to have at least the main stat on him and whatnot. Then we have Charlotte here. These stats, of course, using the Vivonius Codex, and then have What is it? I believe it's two-piece. Yeah, two-piece Blizzard Strayer, two-piece emblem on her. I originally was thinking about putting four-piece Blizzard Strayer on her, but I was just like, you know, she probably won't be on field a whole lot to benefit from it. So I ended up like, what could I use? Like, you know what? I kind of need energy recharge, so that's why we went emblem. So these are her stats here. I mean, yeah, stats for her artifacts here. Then we have Fremine here. Here are his stats here. Weapon, he's using the Skyward Pride as well. Using Pale Flame. And these are just all pieces that I ended up farming, and these are the best ones that I could get for him at the moment. We will be working to try to get better pieces. This is the only last Bloodstained Chivalry piece we have. This was originally the goblet that I had on my official. As if you remember, I said I ended up using a two-piece electro damage, two-piece physical damage. I mean, not two-piece electro, two-piece attack, two-piece physical damage for my official. This is the only piece from that old official that we used to have. And then we have our not newly built, but newly somewhat built Kaveh, with the fact that he now is C3. These are his stats here. He's using the Mailed Flower as his weapon, and I'm also using the Paradise Lost set with him. These are the stats for them. Kind of working on his pieces to try to get a little bit more elemental mastery, along with, you know, the crit rate and crit damage. But I feel like for a start, that's decent enough. We have our Gaming with his stats here. Would like to have better crit rate, crit damage, but the pieces I got, they all seemed promising, but they didn't roll the way I wanted them to. Ended up putting the title Shadow on him, and then a lot of these pieces, like I said, these Vermilion Hereafter pieces, they seem to have so much promise, but they just didn't roll the way that I expected them to. That's the only one I can say I'm kind of proud of. All the rest of these, it's like I wish they were a little bit better. And then we have our Xiangling here with these stats. Of course, I know I need to get the crit damage up a little bit more. We at least had the energy recharge correctly and whatnot. Here we have the catch for her, which I still need to get to R5. I just need to do the fishing stuff. I have about half of the fishes that I need. I just need, or say half the stuff. I just need to get some of those big bloaty fish. I forget the name of them, and just get the certain number of them so I could get R5. We'll be working on that. It's kind of a surprise considering I'm at R3 now. I've just started at the beginning of the year to work on my catch. That's when I started on it. Even though I had the catch for the longest time, I just never used it. I know a lot of people ended up using it with their Shogun. I ended up getting the Engulfing Lightning and used that with it, so I saw no reason to really, you know, go do all that fishing stuff for the catch, even though it's a really good weapon. But yeah. And then we have the 4-piece emblem set for her. These are the stats for the pieces. And that is it. That is all the characters, all the builds, and everything I have. So, y'all could go ahead and put in the comments what you like, what you didn't like, what builds are similar. You know, do you have any builds that y'all have that are similar to what I have? Any build recommendations for any of the characters that I have and whatnot, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And with that, I believe it's a good place to take a break. Like and comment on the video, subscribe for more gameplay. And with that, see ya. Peace.